Hi, my name is Alton Byers. I'm a mountain geographer at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the impacts of COVID-19 on mountains, at least from my perspective, in terms of some problems and some opportunities. And first, I started thinking about, well, what were our concerns about mountains before the pandemic, before COVID-19? And if you think back, many of us were concerned about climate change, okay, especially in terms of glaciers, which are so remarkably demonstrative in terms of the impacts of global warming. So we look at glaciers in the Everest area back in the 50s and look at them today. There have been dramatic changes in terms of recession and the formation of glacial lakes, as well as concerns about glacial lake outburst floods and the devastation they can cause downstream. But it's not just the Himalayas, it's also in the Andes and in many other mountain ranges throughout the world. In this case, in the Cordillera Blanca in Peru, the impacts of global warming have been felt probably for 3 or 4 decades longer than in the Himalayas. Back in the 30s, we were already seeing signs of glacial recession, the formation of large glacial lakes, and even in the late 30s, there were indications of the danger of these glacial lakes in the event of an outburst flood, as happened here in 1931, causing enormous devastation downstream in this same town of Huaraz. So climate change is very largely on our minds, but it wasn't just climate change that's been going on in the mountains, especially in the last 30 or 40 years. It has been a change in economics, a switch from agropastoralism to economies driven by tourism, such as these photos of Namche Bazaar, the upper left one I took back in 1973, and the lower one, the larger one, about a year ago. You can see this economy has been totally changed to one driven by tourism. Now, many good things about tourism. Here's another village, Kumjung village in the 50s, and again, more recently, we have electricity, we have Wi-Fi, we have increased incomes, but all that glitters is not gold, and there's some negative sides as well. For example, you can't see it, but in this village and most other villages in Kumbu and other areas in protected mountain protected area in Nepal, we have problems of water contamination. That comes not primarily from poor septic tanks, or the installation of poor septic tanks, and contamination of groundwater. If you combine that with shortages of fresh water caused by climate change, changes in rainfall, changes in snowfall, we have some real freshwater problems in the high mountains of the world and elsewhere. Another problem is, again, that comes with the benefits of tourism is solid waste. Now, our studies have shown that another problem is, again, that comes with the benefits of tourism is solid waste. Now, our studies have shown that more than 900 tons of solid waste makes its way into the Everest region each year, and it doesn't go out. It's put into landfills such as this, is burned, is buried. It poisons the air, it poisons the water. It's not doing anybody any good. And this has been going on year after year after year. We have a paper coming out in a future issue of Mountain Research and Development where we worked with a local government to try to develop a way of sustainably managing solid waste that you might be interested in. But this is a major problem that has been here for much like what you do with human waste. What gets a lot of press is not only garbage on Mount Everest and the base camp, but also the fact that 12,000 kgs of human waste is produced every season in the Everest Base Camp. What do you do with it? Well, so far it's been to be deposited in landfills or in rivers, and that's something that which is really not sustainable, especially in terms of the health of people and stock downstream. It's not all bad news. There's some very good news too. While there is actually a greening of Nepal, of the Himalayas. You can look at this photo of the 50s and look at it again in 2007. And then just last year, you can see a tremendous increase in trees, a comeback of trees. Now, that's related to many different factors, changes in lifestyles, livestock populations, national park regulations, etc. But it is a good news story and probably has been helped by the pandemic as well, with less pressures on the landscape in terms of grazing, forest use. So all this means to me is that we actually have some opportunities during this lull time imposed by the pandemic, by COVID-19. Normally, you talk to lodge owners and lodges anywhere in the high mountain world, and they say, oh, we're too busy to do anything to confront these problems. And it's probably true because they are extremely busy. The Everest area last year, before the pandemic, had 60,000 tourists per year. And if you multiply that by two in terms of the number of support staff, that's 120,000, 130,000 non-Sherpa people to the Everest area. So here's a time, perhaps, that could be used to develop solid waste recycling and management systems that actually work, or to reduce freshwater contamination by fixing the septic system. Something as simple as that could make a major difference to improving water quality and the health of tourists and local person alike. It could be a time to develop ways of managing human waste at high altitude, above 4,000 meters. Now, I'm not really a fan of some of the current efforts to produce biogas at 5,000 meters. I just don't think it's going to work, but I think that solar composting is especially promising. That's something that needs to be looked into. It's time to prepare for the new generation of adventure tours and protocols that are coming. We don't really know what they are yet, but I think we're going to see trekking and climbing protocols or behaviors that are different from the
5-6 दिन
past.
भइसक्यो क्या त्यो उस छैन म त हिजो अस्तिसँग डराएको
Safety, and finally,
5-6 दिनपछि केही हुँदैन भन्दै
sustainable tourism. I selected Kanchenjunga, Makalupuan, and Karnali, but we can do the same for any mountain range in the world that in turn takes the stress off of very popular areas. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. These were just a few ideas that I had of opportunities that we can take advantage of during the pandemic. And I wish you the best success for the rest of the workshop.